Hello, welcome to Vlogmas. We're up to day 12. You would think I would be able to get these out of here. You would think that I could learn not to be so self-critical. Okay. So, I keep doing sort of like mini themes. So I'm going to continue on with what I talked about yesterday, which was what I call catch yourself being good, catch yourself doing good, or something like that, which probably makes you want to cringe. It makes me want to cringe. I mean, it just, yeah. Maybe the extreme version of that is like every little thing is a little much, but maybe just recognize when you've done something. I don't know. Whatever. That was yesterday's video. Today's video is just about as bad, or just about as good, depending on how you think about it, which is overcoming negativity bias, which is, again, something that for everybody else is like, okay, cool. People with avoidant personality disorder, it's like, are you asking me to cut off my thumb? What are you talking about? And people with avoidant personality disorder are not necessarily more negative than the average person. I think it is safe to say that in actuality, people with avoidant personality disorder are just a little bit more in tune with logic. They have a little bit of a better grasp of reality. I'm starting off winning, aren't I? I don't think so. Anyway, yeah, so this is going to be like sort of fighting your base nature to try to do anything of this sort that I'm about to suggest to you. I get that it's hard. It's hard for me. It's hard for me to even conceptualize. Therefore, this video is going to be... Okay, well, let's just start right there. My immediate reaction was to say, this video is going to be even worse than normal. Okay, that is negativity bias. Bingo, right there. Is just assuming the worst, even though it's probably accurate. And articulating that it's the worst. Because I don't know that for sure. I know what my past experience is. My past experience is not going to dictate my future experience. I mean, my past experience was I tried to put about 6 pieces together of this puzzle, and it didn't come together at all. And I bet there's somebody out there who's, okay, again, this is kind of negative, whatever, it's truth. I bet there's somebody out there that's like, okay, we get it. You're using the puzzle as a metaphor. You've done it. You can stop now. If it's getting annoying, I'm sorry. That doesn't make it less true, though. That it's so easy to just assume that everything is going to continue the same way it's been continuing. First of all. And second of all, to see things basically in a, I keep using the word negative. It's getting annoying to me even. But to use things, sort of prejudge everything. Now, what it is, obviously, is a self-protection technique. I say obviously, although some people, I don't know, maybe I'm saying it's obviously and it's not really actually obvious. Basically anything to do with avoidant personality disorder is a self-preservation technique. Is people trying to protect themselves from repeating really awful experiences. And so if you go into a situation assuming the worst, because like obviously that's what's going to happen, that's not necessarily what's going to happen. You are making an assumption based on a past experience as a way of protecting yourself from future harm, but what you're assuming is not necessarily actually what's going to happen. And a lot of times it's definitely not what's going to happen. So how do you not allow yourself to basically wallow in this negativity? Which that might be a really charged word. I'm sorry if it is for you. For me, I was accused of wallowing constantly. Oh, you're just sort of, yeah, that was the accusation. That was the reaction that I would receive if ever I had the nerve to protest my treatment by people who wanted to keep me basically under their thumb. And it wasn't cool. But it was reality. That people do actually treat you like that. That's not actually reality, though. Okay, now I really feel like I'm repeating myself ridiculously, but it's true. Is this like maybe, why is there a star down in the corner? I don't know, because there's a star down in the corner. So when you assume that things are going to be bad, I mean, what you're doing is it's a form of catastrophizing, which for some reason that's a difficult word for me to say. And you're protecting yourself by sort of worst case scenarioing, assuming that you know what is going to happen in this world, and so that you can prepare for the worst and not take anything personally if it does come to fruition negatively. The problem with that is that if you do that all the time, then you're going to limit your life to extremes, and basically you're going to live up to your own expectations of a negative lifestyle. It's sort of like, I mean, there's going to be some people that are going to be really mad to say because there are some believers out there. But there's that idea that you can. Not correct. I don't think so. It goes in some order, but I don't know which order it goes in. Maybe it goes in this order. There we go. They're so close. Anyway, that you can sort of, I mean, actually, I'll say it. I'm like, I'm going to manifest something to happen. And it's usually something ridiculous, like it would be winning the lottery or something like that, or that my workload, which is, you know, extremely variable. It's either going to, I mean, there's definitely always going to be work, but sometimes it's a huge, crazy amount of work, and sometimes it's just a steady. And I'll be like, I'm going to manifest less work or something like that. I mean, that's complete crap. You can't actually do that. But it sort of makes me feel better because I feel like I'm, like I have a little bit of control over what's going on when I actually don't. And so that's part of what the negativity is doing. It is allowing for you to, I don't know, I mean, every once in a while you get some bratty person who's like, well, I didn't even want that anyway. Who cares? That's kind of like what it is. That's kind of like what you're saying is, you know, I'm not going to fully participate in this because you know, I didn't want it anyway. That's usually crap. And you're, you know, selling yourself short. And yes, that happens in real life. People sell themselves short. But you don't have to do that. So, you know, I've never done puzzles without looking at the boxes before. I'm actually getting like much faster at doing this. I'm much more confident. I started this one and I was like, it's never going to come together. And now look at it. It came right together really relatively quickly, I think. I don't know, I've lost track of time. But I'm sort of stalling at the same time because the point of this video is how to overcome negativity bias. First of all, in the same way that the practice of doing the catch you doing good thing, which is to become like actively aware of everything that's not negative, you know, and to get into the practice of accepting that not everything is terrible, because what you are, again, with negativity bias, they do go together, these two little videos, even though they probably don't make much sense. Anyway, with a negativity bias, you just focus on things that are negative all the time because it's a protection thing. You know, that you're getting your guard up because something could happen that you didn't anticipate. And if you did anticipate it and something negative happens, then you're not as disappointed. That is, in theory, what's happening. In reality, in addition to that, because that can be true, is that you're limiting your life because you're keeping yourself in check and not allowing yourself to really exist fully because you're putting the limitations of, well, this is not gonna work out anyway, ahead of doing something. And so, you know, and also then you can say, basically, I told you so to yourself if something negative does happen, and then you dwell on that. And it's a way of making something that's bad sort of become a victory at the same time because you predicted it and it came true. So you're hedging your bets and trying to soften the blow. And you will learn to do that because there's been so much trauma in your past. I don't like using that word. I don't like using the word trauma. I don't like using the word abuse. And it took me years and years to say, oh yeah, I came from an abusive background. Even though, I mean, it was clear. And I had people who knew me who came to me afterward, and it was like growing up, seeing what happened, I was like horrified for you. I could not believe that you were going through these things. Um, but I always saw it as like, this is going to sound terrible, but special people went through trauma. I mean, that's like, first of all, it wasn't consistent every day. Yeah, it can be. And second of all, you know, they clearly didn't deserve it. And they were, you know, much better people than who deserve the trauma. And which of course means if I'm saying therefore I don't have trauma, that I didn't, like, I did deserve it or something like that. You know, I mean, it is the mental thing that you go through. So I don't like that word. I'm sorry if it triggered you. Um, yeah. So how do you overcome the negativity bias? Again, I keep going off on tangents, coming back to the core here because it's hard for me. Is that you, first of all, recognize it straight up. You like, you know, that doesn't mean you have to not think it. That doesn't mean that you have to argue with it and say, well, no, that's not true, even if it 100% could be true, that what you're coming up with is not accurate. But what you do is you acknowledge, okay, yes, labeling it or whatever, how you want to put it, yes, this thing exists. You know, I'm thinking this. So that it's not like sort of in a background, you know, back of your head, but you actually acknowledge it. Okay, I'm thinking this. Because then that's the first step. The second step is the catch you doing good stuff, which is, I mean, if you're actively trying to, you don't have to do this every time. This is another thing. It's very stressful. It is against your nature if you have a avoidant personality to do this stuff. A very personality disorder to do anything like this. This is like, what? No, wrong. No. It's difficult. It's hard. It gets easier the more you do it. But definitely in the beginning, it's not easy at all. So, God, I keep coming up with these. I'm trying to avoid them, but I keep coming up with these buzzwords. To give yourself grace also makes me want to puke. But seriously, like, cut yourself some slack. You know, maybe you try it once or twice a month when things are relatively really going well and you have very, very, very low stakes. Like, I don't know, grocery shopping or something. I mean, really basic stuff. You're going to go grocery shopping and you're like, oh my God, the cashier is just going to hate me and have an attitude. And I mean, I don't know, maybe whatever you're thinking. You know, or, oh my God, the cashier's going to want to talk to me. Oh, yuck. I mean, when you're not there in a place where you can do that, that takes so much energy having somebody yap at you. Oh my God. You know, or, you know, I'm going to have to go through the cashier and I can't go through the auto checkout. Oh God. You know, this is the sort of negativity bias. I mean, it usually where it really hurts you is when you're doing it against yourself and you're limiting yourself. But practice this, how you do it. You practice in these little low case. So first acknowledge it. Okay, I'm in line at this grocery store and oh my God, I think that this cashier is going to have an attitude. Okay, that's what I'm thinking. Okay, acknowledge that. One, that may or may not happen. And two, even if it does, there's a good chance that it's nothing to do with me because they just ran into me. I'm sorry, I am not that important to make such an impact on somebody's life that they're instantly going to be despising me the second they see me. I'm sorry. If somebody has an attitude in a checkout line, it's because they've dealt with 68 other annoying people, and oh my God, here comes another person, and Jesus Christ, isn't it time for my break yet? It's their own thing. It's not about you. Okay? And that's what you do. That's literally what you do, is you sort of acknowledge it and then look at the reality of what's happening around you, like real stuff, not the stuff that you're assuming in your head, but real physical facts. It's a type of mindfulness of acknowledging the reality around you. And then you keep that in mind and say, okay, chances are, even if this is a negative experience, basically, again, here comes another cliche, it's not personal. It's not about you. It really isn't. It feels like the entire world is on your back, but you know what? Seriously. Unless you're dealing with, say, your mother, who you just had another fight with and who has, never really done you well in your life, in which case then you need to work on, and I'll actually be talking about this later this month. You have to work on the boundaries with that. Okay, well, that again is probably not about you. It's probably something to do with your mother, that it's her own damn disgusting thing, and she's using you as basically a lightning rod to get rid of all of her negative energy and get it out of her so that she feels better. So she's making you feel bad so she feels better. Again, that's nothing personal. Still, better chance that it's actually going to be a negative experience rather than assuming that every single interaction you have is negative, because if somebody doesn't know you, there's a much better chance that somebody's going to be pleasant with you than somebody who's been abusing you for your entire life, for example. But because somebody that you trust and depend on has abused you in most situations, you're going to assume that everybody, this is somebody who cares about you, supposedly, or definitely, or whatever. It's somebody who couldn't care less if you existed. They're definitely going to treat you worse than somebody who cares about you, right? That is how your brain works. In reality, that's probably not what's going to happen. So pay attention to your feelings, acknowledge your feelings, and then try to ground yourself in reality of what's happening in your life. And that's basically how you do it. And you do it in these teeny tiny little scenarios like that. Practice it a lot, but again, practice it slowly, because it's going to break your brain. It's going to cause you very much to be triggered with the avoidant personality disorder, because that is a protective thing. And if you get rid of your protection, like, you're just suddenly vulnerable in the world and no armor, and what the heck, very, very dangerous situation. But you can move that pendulum. I talked about that before. You can move the pendulum slowly by practicing it in low, stakes, low stress situations when you're already feeling all right. Practice it, practice it, practice it. And eventually you can get to the point where it's almost automatic that you're going to have the negativity bias because you have avoidant personality disorder. If you have extra sticky neural pathways, you're going to keep doing what you've always done in your entire life. But you can have this second pathway that is different, that's thinking differently, that is basically parallel. It becomes parallel, and it becomes like, okay, you have the first thought, and then you almost automatically have the second thought that's sort of like, it doesn't completely counteract it, but it equalizes it. And then you can go into a situation sort of more open and aware. And so you're not going from a negativity bias to a positivity bias. You're going from a less negative bias to something that's more neutral. And again, that little bit there makes a huge difference in your life over time. I hope this was any much coherent. I think I'm going to stop talking because I can feel that I'm getting to the point where I'm just going to start repeating myself over and over. as you know if you've watched my videos. I tend to do that. So I'll stop it, and I'll talk to you tomorrow. Bye.